Hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor, helping you cultivate a life you love. Really excited about today's show. One of the things I think that so many people want is more money. Money is very important, right? And so it's interesting because money is a mindset, and many people don't even realize that money is a mindset, and they just believe that they have to, do more, work harder, have more money. And some people just believe that, it's just there's just not enough money to go around, no matter what. But that really truly is a money belief, and we're going to talk about what some of those money beliefs are, and try to unravel that thinking. So to be able to shift from scarcity to abundance. And I've brought in my good friend, Kye Harris, who is an expert when it comes to money. He has a business and it really focuses on financial planning and coaching, helping people to really unravel, what's going on in the mind and affecting their financial situation, and helping people move beyond that. And so let's just say hello and welcome to Kye Harris. Well, hello. It's so great to have you here, Kye.
Thank you so much. That was an awesome introduction.
Oh.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on the show. All the way from Australia. I'm glad to join you.
Yes, that's so cool. We always have such great conversations, and I just thought this would be such a timely conversation, given where people are right now, in the world with a lot of stress. Money by itself, I think has caused a lot of stress, anyways, traditionally, right over, just the lifetime of money. But I think right now during a pandemic, a lot of people are really feeling a lot of financial strain, a lot of pressure, and are feeling like, there is no hope, and can I get out of this? And the living, paycheck to paycheck, and the stress that is created. So how can we shift from that? And can we shift? I think that's the big question, right? Can we shift from that scarcity mindset to really enjoying life and feeling, that we have the abundance and there are possibilities to get out of, debt, let's say.
Oh, geez, Tania, I'm not sure how long your show goes for, but there's a lot to talk about there. I guess the first thing that comes to mind for me is that money has such an emotional charge around it. And over the last 20 years dealing with people with money, and through the last 20 years in dealing with those people, also dealing with my own mindsets and my own beliefs around money, what's the source of those beliefs, and catching myself out on the beliefs that aren't serving me, because we come across so many people, and it's incredibly common that we all have beliefs that don't serve us, and we all have beliefs that do. And it's becoming aware first and foremost of what those beliefs that aren't serving us. So I guess it all comes under the umbrella of what we feel we're worth. What are we worth? And now we're starting to, as I said, I don't know how long your show is, but starting to change your mindset around money is becoming aware of the beliefs that are serving you and the beliefs that aren't. Now, how do we determine exactly what are serving us and what aren't? Well, that's another tricky one as well. So let's talk about it. For example, the belief that you touched on before, that there's not enough money to go around. So the rich people have all that they have, but I can't have what they have. There's not enough for me. So some would have you lead to believe, and they'd be convicted in that belief that, that is true. There's not enough for me. I'm not going to have that money. How can I be like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or any of those people? How can I seriously have any of that sort of money? And it's not necessarily the money that people are after. That's the first thing to remember. It's not the money they're after. They just want the freedom to do what matters most in their life, and they feel that money is the vehicle to make that happen.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think so many people can, clearly understand that, but the logic behind their own money mindset, I think that is where the lack of understanding is, because it's so subconscious, most of the time. So they really don't understand that they even have a money mindset, or that there is a mindset that's not serving them in relation to money. And again, so many people are stuck in that. Well, they're the lucky ones. It's only for these certain few people. So I'd love to be able able to unravel that for people and let them know that, yeah, there is enough to go around for everyone. And actually, interesting that you touched on that one too. First, that's something that I believed growing up. Absolutely. There's not enough for me. I was the youngest of 5, and that was just, there was not enough for me. That's what I believed, right? Because I always got the hand-me-downs, all the leftovers, right? And so that became just that pattern, right? And it was just, I struggled financially because I also witnessed that through my upbringing as well. Money, there was never enough to go around. There was always a lack and a shortage, right?
Yeah,
But again, it really is, it's a mindset. So how can we shift from that belief of there's not enough?
Well, it's first recognizing exactly what you've just said. You've recognized a part of your life that showed you were only worth so much. And I experienced exactly the same thing. And there's no blame, no fault or otherwise here. But me looking back, I can recognize that, for example, my older brother always got the more expensive shoes. He got the Nikes, I got the Dunlops, or the sort of the local market brand shoe, because I was always of the opinion, and this is a rule, and this is almost an agreement I made with myself, that I won't push and I won't disrupt and I won't upset. I want to keep the peace. And there's many and varied reasons behind that, which we won't get into today, but I made that rule. So for me to toe the line, and for me that I felt I was keeping peace in the family, I would not push for the expensive shoes, because I knew, I had experienced. So it's usually what we experience in and around money. It's usually what we see, or it's usually what we hear in and around money. And those formative years, 0 to 7 years of age, and Dr. Bruce Lipton actually talks about, I think, from the last trimester that you're in the womb before being born, right up to age 7, the largest part of our formation of how we think is in those 7 years. So for some reason, and so we won't get into those reasons today, but I was of the opinion I couldn't disrupt or push or put pressure on my parents for the more expensive shoes. So then I became accustomed to the belief that that's all I'm worth. I'm worth only the cheaper, like you. I'm only worth the leftovers. I'm only worth the hand-me-downs. So this all comes back to what our sense of worth is. Now, that could be when people hear that, what's my balance sheet look like? What's my cash flow? What's my paycheck? What car do I have? That's not it at all. That will actually reflect what you feel within yourself you're worth. So if you look around you, and if you have a beat up old car and you don't have a home of your own, that's because of what you feel you're worth within you. It's got nothing to do with your career. It's got nothing to do with you're not smart. It's got nothing to do with you don't work hard enough. It's got to do with what you actually feel you're worth within yourself.
Wow.
Now, that's probably an angle that people didn't expect to go down, and they're probably thinking, oh, God, why can't you just tell me how do I get rich? What's the next share, the stock? What's the next thing I can invest in? What's the next Facebook I can invest in? What's the next Bitcoin I invest in to make me a millionaire overnight? I'm sorry to say, it's not going to happen that way.
Yeah, but what's interesting. Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, you keep coming. That's all good.
So what I was going to say, but that's actually really good news, because then that gives us the power to change it, right? It's not that external,
100%.
Right?
Yeah, and you are 100% correct, because as a society, and this has gotten worse and worse and worse over the last decade in particular, we are constantly comparing ourselves to what's out there, what's outside of us. And by virtue of doing that in a microscopic and a microsecond way each and every day, that we're thinking what someone else has done, we're looking through social media what someone else has done, what someone else has, we're constantly bringing our worth down, because comparison is the thief of joy. We've all heard that one, I'm sure. So when we're looking at what other people are doing, we're effectively putting ourselves down by saying they're better than us, they have more than us, they've got. So you're coming from a place of lack. And somewhat of the title of the show, if we keep coming from a place of lack, then how the hell can we have abundance? If we're always focused on what we're lacking. So we're, the school of thought, and this is a global problem. We've touched on this before. My belief, and not dismissing the severity of COVID, the true pandemic is a sense of self-worth, or lack of self-worth, that we all have as human beings.
100%.
And that is the problem with feeling abundance, or converting from a sense of lack or scarcity to abundance.
Yeah, I think that so much of that obviously is learned behavior, right? But
Absolutely.
then again, we have the ability to unlearn that behavior and start creating the life that we love, and a life that does serve us, and financially, right? I mean, you could be very successful in one particular area, and then your finances are lacking. But if you have low self-worth, there's probably many areas that your life is not showing up for you the way you want it to show up for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, there is some work to be done, and to really shift that mindset. So we talked about the belief that, there's just not enough, right? There's not enough to go around. There's just not enough, or, that's just for certain people to be rich, or the lucky ones. So what are some of the other beliefs that people have around mindset? Because I want to help people identify really what category they would, fit into.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to the earlier few things I mentioned around it comes from three things: what we see, what we hear, and what we experience. So the best thing that people can do, and what we have people do that we coach or we advise, is to put pen to paper. You really need to get into that zone of creativity, shut out the world, put pen to paper, and to quote sort of Brene Brown's type work, get vulnerable, start expressing what it is that's coming up for you and let it flow. And one of the biggest challenges people have is it's almost a sense of failure. And I do believe too that it's a little bit more prevalent in men, and we are genetically wired to hunt and gather and provide. We cannot hide from genetics. I know there's a lot of tug of war going on around gender equality. What I'm not getting into that at all. What I'm referring to here is what we're genetically wired to do. And men are typically genetically wired for hunting and gathering. So that sense of failure that we can't hunt and gather becomes a very, very strong emotion that we try either one, to protect, or two, avoid potentially feeling like we have failed it. So what I'm getting to here is that put pen to paper and write down exactly what you might have seen growing up. So for me, for example, I saw my brother getting the more expensive shoes, and I got hand-me-downs as well. And I saw him getting the more expensive items across the board, whereas I was just getting the second-hand ones, or I didn't want to push, I didn't want to ask. So I automatically then had an agreement or a rule within my thinking. My belief set was, I don't necessarily deserve the more expensive shoes. And because our brains are still in those formative years, everything we're thinking and we're downloading gets locked in. And that's the rule we carry into adulthood. And that's what effectively could make or break our feeling of abundance as adults. So first and foremost, write down what you remember seeing happening in and around your family. What did you see happen with spending money? What did you hear? Did you hear your parents or your grandparents, whoever your guardians were growing up, who had the biggest influence on you? What did you hear them talking about? Was there pain in and around money? Was there actually things they said, which I think we've all heard this one: money doesn't grow on trees.
Oh, yeah. My father loved
really
that expression all the time. Oh, yeah.
What do you think, I'm made of money? That sort of, are you kidding?
Think I am Rockefeller? Yeah. My dad would say that one all the time, too.
Well, the other ones are like, we can't do that. Your brother needs this, your sister needs that, your father needs this. We can't afford that. Yep. So automatically in that moment, in that exact moment, you've made a rule. And that rule could have been, oh, I don't deserve that. So it was the way it was delivered, which was the problem. Our parents were putting their best foot forward to try and survive. And majority of us have come from that background of survival, not living abundantly. And I really want to hit on this point eventually too. Abundance is not just about the money. We've got to look broader than money and look to the feeling of abundance.
Yeah. I mean, you have your podcast, there's more than money. Is that the title of the podcast?
That's it.
Yeah, yep. Fantastic. And I think that is brilliant. And it's so true. I mean, there's so much more, to abundance, right, and prosperity versus just money. But it really all comes back to the mindset, and how that mindset is ruling all of those actions. It is ruling the bank balance. It is ruling the car that you drive, right? Yes. Or the car that you don't drive, or the type of house that you live in, or if you're renting, or if you're struggling, or if you've got that free flowing, financial situation. It all comes down to money. And I'd love to talk a little bit more too, as we get into the conversation more, about money being energy, and that exchange, right? Everything on the planet is energy, and it's an exchange. And maybe sometimes we hold on a little too tightly to it, and we don't want to part with money. And I think that's
Yep.
another interesting thing, right? Where people are just holding on to that money, they just don't want to let it go, and they don't enjoy life, and they can't enjoy their money because they're holding on a little bit too tightly to that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, the different aspects of the money mindset, and how it really either can really propel us forward in our financial situation or really hold us back. And I definitely early experiences, shape a lot of that belief. But in adulthood, we have the power to choose, what direction we want to take, and we don't have to lock into other people's mindset, because oftentimes, again, that's just passed down through other generations. And if you look at people who come from a poverty consciousness, there's generations of people. Let's say they're, if they're on the welfare system, it's typically 3 to 5 generations, and they're all in that same cycle because it's what's passed down. It's the belief
Yeah.
system, right? And again, it's that
Absolutely.
feeling of I'm not worthy to have more than this, or not even being able to see beyond that. So when you have people do the exercise of actually writing it all down and being vulnerable, do you find that people, as they're doing that process, are they being vulnerable? Does it take a while to really get to that point? Because I think a lot of people actually are in denial about their financial situation. So if they're in denial, how can you be vulnerable? So what does that look like for you?
Oh, there's a lot of things to unpack there too, Tania. Now, one thing that came to mind as you were talking is we all have the inner victim. Now, our ego plays a massive role in what we do. Now, I just want to dissolve a few myths here that might be around the ego, and often people might associate ego with someone who is arrogant, someone who is too bold and too confident and thinks they're better than everyone else. Now, the ego does have that role, but the ego also has a multitude of roles in our every single day. Our ego might want to prevent us from actually stepping into what we might feel abundant, successful. We might feel loved. Our ego will jump in and go, well, this is abnormal. I don't feel comfortable here. You don't deserve that. So it's that little voice in your head that we all have that basically keeps putting us down. And that voice really you need to control it. You have to gain control over that voice. We all have to do it because it will keep you on the ground.
Right? Easier said than done, Kye.
Much, much easier said than done. So, where that, again, awareness, you got to become aware of what's going on and what belief it is that's coming up. Challenge the belief. And part of that is actually almost challenging your parents or your guardians or your carers that you had growing up, because they're the ones that we got this information from. It could have been a coach, it could have been a school teacher, an older brother, a younger sister, who knows? But those who had the biggest influence on you and around you growing up, that's where we got this from. So you have to challenge that belief. What's come up? Okay. Is it true?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And obviously, as children, we look up to our, adults, our elders and our caregivers, and think that everything they say is true. But then, of course, that's not necessarily the reality.
Of course, because that was our trusted environment. That's what kept us safe. They were our guardians. They were our carers. They were our protectors. So we took everything from them as truth. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about that, and we're gonna challenge those beliefs when we come back. We're gonna take a short break, so stay with us here on the Mindset Mentor. Stay tuned for more from Kye Harris here on Sauga 960. Hello, and welcome back. You are listening to the Mindset Mentor here on Sauga 960. Today, we are talking about, well, it's a hot topic, let me tell you, right? It's money mindset. I think everybody would love to have more money. And so the problem is that so many people are struggling. They're living paycheck to paycheck, or stuck in a belief that, there's not enough to go around, that, they can't have the success and the prosperity and the abundance that they want, and really stuck stuck in a lack and limitation scarcity mindset. So today we're really going to help you, shift from a scarcity mindset to abundance. And Kye Harris is joining me. Always such a pleasure to chat with Kye Harris from Australia. So joining me here, and I love it that we can connect like this from such a distance. But your expertise in the financial, world, this is your life. This is what you do. And what I love about your approach to helping your clients is that it's not just about the money. It's not just about investing. It's not just about, okay, what's the financial plan moving forward or the reality of the now. It's really helping to shift the beliefs, the limiting beliefs that people have around money so that they can, free up that the trap of not having enough, right? So thanks for being here. I think this is such a timely message for people right now. So let's just jump right back into the conversation. And we were talking about challenging some of those beliefs that we have picked up, and knowing that there is more available to us.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, again, like you said, challenge the beliefs first and foremost. Ask whether they're true. Is this actually true, what I think about this current situation? And one of the problems with challenging, not just challenging that belief, because it's so ingrained and it's so embedded in our thinking, and whether we're 20 years old, 30, 40, 50, depending on how much we've adhered ourselves or stuck ourselves to that belief, will probably indicate or give some sort of guidance to how hard it might be to actually let go of. So importantly, if there's anything worth doing, it's worth taking control over the beliefs that aren't serving you. So rather than, for example, going after that car, that new car, that bigger house, that's not going to give you what you're after. Now, there's never, that I've known of, and I don't know everyone in the world, that's for sure, but I've never known a multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire to go, I've seen multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires go become, I guess, monk-like and go to that way of life. I've never seen a monk try to pursue corporate world and become a multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire. So there's a lot in that. And I want people to take out of that, anyone, the listeners of your show, to think about why that is. So why is it that there are people with nothing who are happier than those who are perceived to have everything? Now, we are in a society where those with the nicest cars, the biggest houses and the biggest businesses and the biggest incomes have it all. But that's actually purely, with the right mindset, is a byproduct of truly having it all. So we have what's called, or I refer to it as our mind self and our truest self. And those who have it all are truly connected to their truest self. Our mind self is our belief. It's what we think we should be doing. It's what we think we should do with money. It's what we think we should be doing in our careers. It's what we think we should be doing as parents and as adults and as friends. That's our mind self. So we often trick ourselves. Our mind will actually take us down paths that our soul, our gut, and our instinct doesn't want us to do. And we can feel that. That's what anxiety is. Anxiety is where your mind's going somewhere that your soul doesn't want you to go. And
so there's a disconnect. Absolutely.
There's a disconnect. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's we always know if something is for us or not just through our gut feeling and that instinctual, feeling, but we tend to ignore that, especially when we have a lot of, limiting beliefs, whether it's, mindset related or money related or other. It's hard to sort of tap into that sometimes because, again, it's that the ego, talking you out of all of the things that you want to have and that actually feel good.
One of the problems with all that and bringing all that together is, again, I like to circle back. So people, as these shows go on, they can be lengthy. So we keep circling back to the key points. One, awareness. Awareness of the little voice in your head and what it's actually saying to you and those beliefs that are coming up. The second challenge and the second thing to focus on is stepping out of your current reality. So we're very much fixated on what we're seeing. So what we're seeing is our current reality, but it's how we're filtering that information, which is the important part. So, for example, I can jump on social media and I can see any one of millions of posts where people are successful, or what I would perceive to be successful. So I might be safe to assume, but very, very rarely someone, any listeners, myself included in the past, is anyone getting onto social media and having a look at monks, Buddhists, people who live very simply, and looking at them for inspiration. We're actually more inclined to look at the multi-billionaires of the world, the nice cars, the nice houses, the bling, the yachts. That's where we're looking for inspiration, in the hope that that's actually going to give us that fulfillment and the freedom to do what matters. Now, when it comes to money, it's about the freedom that we think we're going to get with it to do what really matters to us. The point is, though, we always have the freedom to do what we want, but we're so fixated that we can't do what we want unless we've got the money to do it. Now, that in itself is a real big challenge. Now, you've touched on it today so far around the tough time that people are having globally. And because of COVID, there's always a tough time going on for people globally. That's the nature of how our world turns. But what we need to get to, and what I want listeners to take out as well, is that there's always a way out. And it really depends on what your perspective is that you wake up with every morning. Now, you can wake up every morning, and again, we go back to that voice in our heads, our mind self will wake up and it will go, another shit day. I've got nothing. My business is closed down. What am I going to do? So straight away, the mind's going into the negativity. Or you can wake up, put your feet on the floor, and you can be grateful that you're alive, you're breathing. God bless anyone who does. But you can be thankful you don't have COVID, or someone close to you doesn't have COVID. You're not in the hospital, if you're fortunate not to be in the hospital. So that act of gratitude first thing in the morning is a truly, truly, truly valuable practice. And that will set your mood and that will set your intention for the day. Now, you will hit bumps along the way, but as you go through the day, if you keep reminding yourself, I'm breathing, I'm healthy, I've got food, whatever it may be, I've got support, I feel love, I've got someone beside me. Yeah. So I know that sounds unmoney related, but that's the point. So the practice of gratitude will help fill that abundance bucket and help us shift from a scarcity to abundance.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because there's always so much to be grateful for every moment, and if we can recognize those moments, more of that will come in, right? The problem is, as we wake up, we're living the same day that we had the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. And so you're in that habit of not feeling gratitude. It's just a habitual pattern. And it is important to break that and to adopt that ritual, of being grateful and knowing that, there is hope. And you had touched on that. And I think that's where the problem lies for a lot of people. They just feel that their financial situation is hopeless and that it's not changeable, that they can't do anything about it. They may have a lot of debt piled up, and they're maybe not loving their job, or they're already working 3 jobs to pay the bills and to make ends meet. So when you're stuck in that mindset, it is difficult to bring in something different, right? So
absolutely,
is there another add-on to the gratitude that can help somebody to shift from that real hardcore lack and limitation mindset? Because that's not fun. And listen, I've been there. I know what that feels like, and it's awful. It's stressful, and it's but you can absolutely shift from it. And I think that's really the important thing, because I think people always need to know that they can change it, no matter how tough it seems right now.
Oh, you're 100% correct. And there's literally millions of stories of people who have come from such extremely, incredibly low points to be at incredibly high points. And I think what I've seen with people is that the belief is held that, that's them. They're stronger, they're better, they've got something I don't have. And that's not the case. We're actually all born the same. We're all born with the same capabilities. We all have the same genetic makeup, more or less. Like we're not that different. We sort of look different, We've all got the same sort of wiring. We've all got 2 arms and 2 legs, and even inspirational stories of people that are born with maybe no legs, or they have some sort of disability. Some of those sorts of people are actually achieving more in life or have more belief in themselves than those that could be perceived to have everything. So belief, not just in the sense of what beliefs we hold, but the belief in ourselves that we are able and we are capable of, we have the ability to achieve what it is that that person over there is achieving that I'm looking at and feel I can't match. So again, comparison is the thief of joy. Look within yourself and start taking control of that thinking, that little voice in your head that keeps putting you down. Change it. And you've hit the nail on the head earlier. That's an Australian saying, hit the nail on the head. I don't know if it's over there as well. But it's incredibly empowering when you start recognizing that little shitty voice that keeps putting us down. You go, you know what? I've had enough listening to you. And what I want people to hear this is, I want to hear very clearly here. If that voice can have so much control over you and put you in your place where you are now, where you're feeling shitty, that means you do have a voice to then reverse that. You do have as much power and you do have as much ability to start saying the positive things. And that's that in itself.
Yes, so good. It's time to oust that negative voice. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just, and it's hard again. Like we're so accustomed to it. We're so used to it. It's our normal. It becomes our identity, becomes our personality. And, Joe Dispenza talks about our personality becomes our personal reality. And it's so, so true. So we start seeing the world through this little voice in our head, and the little voice needs to be moved out. If you had a really bad roommate, or if you had you help someone out for a couple of months and you let them live with you to tie them over during what we're talking about, some tough times, and they just ultimately trashed your house, they were disrespectful, they put you down, they abused you, you kick them out. But we let this voice go through our head so many times, which carries these beliefs, which we've taken from our upbringing, and we're residing to the fact that this is our truth. But it's not. That's our mind self, and our mind self has been built by our environment as we grew up. Our truer self is loving, it's compassionate, it's forgiving, it wants the best for us. That's what we actually came here to live out.
Wow.
So
that sounds so good. That's like, even just as you're describing that, is like, wow, that's a big shift right there. And that feels good. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is exactly what people need to focus on. So reach for that next best feeling. So that simple next best feeling. As you wake up and you're waking up in the Groundhog Day and it's shit and there's COVID and your business is shut down, you could lose your house. Wake up to that next best feeling, which is the sun shining. Something simple. I can feel my toes. So simple. I'm glad I've got a warm blanket. Whatever it is, start with the next best feeling. And I promise you, if you work hard at moving out your bad roommate that lives in your head, if you work hard at moving them out, I promise you the momentum will build. And from little things, big things grow. We plant a seed, we get a 100-foot tall tree with time. Same with our minds. If you plant the seed of goodness, if you plant the seed of abundance, and that is the nature of abundance, that feeling good moment. Plant the seed for that, however small, the momentum will build, and it will help you move from scarcity to abundance. And as that momentum builds, you'll get more energy, you'll feel better, you'll feel good, you'll want to take another step, and it'll just keep growing.
Oh, I love that. Plant the seed of abundance and it will just keep growing. And that's great, because here's the thing is that if somebody is, sitting under a mountain of debt right now, and they want financial abundance, it's like they think, well, I can't have it because here I am at the under this pile. And if I want, all of this, abundance, it's way up here. So that small shift, we need to know that we can incrementally just make those small shifts to be able to get there.
Yes.
Because I think that's what deters people and keeps people depressed and stuck and immobilized to take action, to change their situation, or to, not even open up their bills, right? People get bills and they know that people want money, and they can't face it. So there's so many people that don't even open those envelopes because it's just too depressing, right? And the reality is not there. They're not willing to look at it. So I do believe that awareness is so important. You have to know where you're at, what your reality is, but also know that it's immovable. You can change it. It is movable. You can change it. And so, but to take those small steps, you don't have to, change your financial situation overnight. But I think it's great to know that we can do those things to plant the seed.
And ask how. Ask how. So you plant the seed, whether it be through gratitude, whether it be a practice of what we said, plant the seed of abundance. It's asking then how. How do I change my circumstances? And we are very, very, all of us human beings are so prone and so stuck in the reality that we're actually seeing in front of us, rather than looking within and believing in what we're actually capable of and what we are deserved of. So to go down to, I guess, some fairly different realms, like on a spiritual level, we are actually brought here to be abundant, to feel love, and to feel like we belong and we deserve all our desires and dreams and otherwise. And people listening are potentially going, "You idiot, what are you talking about? I'm having a tough time, I'm going bankrupt," or whatever it might be. But one thing I want to touch on there is a client I met with a few months ago, and as we dug into their story, as we do, we spend hours digging into their story. He had told me that he developed a business. He had, 4 or 5 businesses going, and it got up to about 20 million a year, and he ended up bankrupt. So the whole lot got wiped out. He lost his house, he lost his businesses, everything he had become accustomed to experiencing, that so-called freedom that would be perceived to come with that amount of money. That freedom, all those experiences, whether it be cars, houses, holidays, whatever it might be, just gone almost in an instant. Now, this is the best part of this conversation I had with this client. I said to him, I looked at him and I said, "What an awesome experience." And he looked at me a bit weird, and he goes, he's looking at me on, "What the hell?"
He's like, "What? I'm paying you?"
Yeah. I said, "Do you look back on that and say, how much did you actually learn?" I said, "How much better equipped are you now to move forward?" I said, "You're actually going to go bigger, better, and greater than you were on that first attempt." And he said, "You're right." He said, "I've thought about that a few times." And he said, "Part of me's gone, oh, that's stupid. I don't think like that." He said, "I'm glad you said that, because it's almost like the permission to go, you're right." Like, I know we've probably heard all this before, that some of the richest people in the world, and again, we're only talking money here, some of the richest people in the world who might be the poorest within themselves, and you look at Steve Jobs' letter he wrote as he was passing away, that to me says it all.
Yeah.
So he's come to this point of, I can actually learn from this and I can take a different approach. So through building those businesses, he thought he was abundant and he thought he was rich, but he had huge gaping holes in himself. He wasn't spending any time with his family. He was actually happier 7 years earlier when he didn't have the businesses and he didn't have all that money and all that responsibility. So it's come full circle for him to go through all this, I'm going to chase abundance in the form of a nice, fat, healthy balance sheet, assets, cash, all that sort of stuff. He was actually incredibly unhappy. So now that he's approaching, he still wants to build a business. Now, what I want to touch on there very quickly is what we're here for. So we do have an element of trying to find our purpose in life, and it's hard. It's, what are we here for? What do we really want to accomplish? He has a purpose to create. He wants to create. He wants to employ people. He wants to put his stamp on this world by giving jobs to people and helping them excel in what they do and progress them through their careers. That's his passion. So that's his driver behind building the business. The driver behind building the business wasn't about having a nice car, but he got caught up. The ego got the best of him, and the ego kept pushing him. And his beliefs were that he brought through from his upbringing, I'm going to do better. Enough's never enough. But he got that lesson real hard, and it whacked him on the head real quick.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. Mm-hmm.
So for question around bankruptcies and that sort of, I guess we'll call it financial trauma, that strain, look at it for the learning that's in it and look how that will prepare you for next time. If you have a car accident, you don't stop driving. You learn from that experience and you drive a bit differently, you pay more attention, or you take a different approach.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
love
it
that.
is.
It is. It's an opportunity, and everything is a learning experience. And so many of the world's most successful people have, created abundance, lost it all, and created it again.
Yeah.
And I always find that fascinating. It's like, wow, you did this and then you lost it all and you did it again, where some people don't even get to the point of creating that wealth once, right? But again,
Yes.
it's all about the mindset and the drive to keep moving forward, to know that it is possible for you. And again, to really understand, where you're at, and if something's not working, to make that shift so that you can move from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. So plant that seed of abundance. We're going to continue the conversation here on the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and my special guest today is Kye Harris. He's a financial expert helping people really to learn about money and to obviously change and improve their financial situation. But it's really about the coaching and the planning and the mindset behind it all, and helping people to thrive. So stay with us, and we'll be back after this break. Well, hello, and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, and today we are really focusing on a hot topic. It's money mindset. So how to move and shift from a scarcity mindset to abundance. Kye Harris is joining me. He is a financial expert. He has a business that he helps to coach people. He helps people to create plans to change and reinvent their financial situation, really to create a life that they love in terms of their financial world, but also getting to the heart and to the root of what holds them back. So we talked a bit about the reasons why people are in that scarcity mindset. But Kye, can you help us out with how to move forward? What's the recipe for that abundance thinking and having the success that we want?
I guess to put it in a very, very simple way, it's our thoughts. What we're thinking makes it so. So it's really important to become aware of what our little ego, big ego is doing to our thinking. And then we become aware of what thoughts are actually serving us and what thoughts aren't. Now, there's a lot more in and around that, but if at the very, very basic level, just become aware of what our thoughts are. So it is difficult. For example, I'd really love to do that. Oh, you can't do it. Straight away, just like that. It's literally a millisecond. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and if we've got 80, 60, 70, 80% of those are negative, which they likely are, no wonder we're not where we want to be. We can't get to where we want to be if we keep telling ourselves we only belong here, right down at the bottom. So abundance mindset comes from exactly that, the thinking. What's our thinking? And one of the things I've learned over probably 20 years now, and meeting I don't know how many people and having how many hours of discussions, that there's 4 ingredients that I've seen in people that are successful. And I mean successful not just with money, but I mean just generally. It could be at any level, on any task, any career, any life journey that they want to be on. And I've broken it down. It's a little bit of a play on money, but it's in investing, some concepts in around investing. It's called beta, BEDA. Now, the ingredients that I've seen in people is that B, they believe. They believe they can do it. They believe they have the ability. They believe they have the capability to do what it takes to have what they want. Now, there's a lot more in and around that, which we've touched on. You've written books on shifting mindset and beliefs, and you coach that as well. So there's a large, large chunk under that B, which, there's strategies and tactics to create those different beliefs, which we've touched on. Just become aware of it, challenge them. Are they true? And then create new ones effectively. The next one is E, expectation. So people who are successful actually expect it. They expect it for themselves. So you could have a belief. I could have a belief. I believe I'm capable of doing that, but I don't necessarily expect it. I believe I'm capable. Hey?
Yeah, because you might have a belief that, I always screw things up. Nothing works out for me. I always get it wrong. Things like that, right? So it really gives you that sense of, hey, not expecting it.
Yes, exactly. Yep, and that's the other side too. Like beliefs that aren't serving you, well, then that's what you'll continue to expect is that a negative outcome all the time. Oh, see, I expect. See, there you go. It's just turned to shit again. That's what I expect. So we've got to first and foremost belief. You've got to have the belief, the expectation. You expect that it can happen for you. If you believe that you can have that outcome that you really desire, you have to also expect it. And you've got to coach that thinking again to expect it. The next one is D. Now, this is pretty challenging, this one, I think. I think it's probably the most challenging one. Deserve it. So do you feel you actually deserve it? And this is part of Kye Harris' book, The Big Leap. He talks about our upper limit problems, and it's a concept that's been widely known for a long time. It's basically self-sabotage. We sabotage ourselves all the time. All day, every day, on the littlest level, on the biggest level. So deserve it. So our ego will jump in. If we feel we're about to make some ground, if we feel we're about to feel good, if that's about to happen, then our ego chips in and goes, no, you belong in misery. That's where you stay. Let's stay comfortable. Don't take that leap. Cause an argument. Sabotage yourself. You don't deserve it.
Yeah.
Or, that deservedness, hey?
Yeah, or spend all your money because you were just starting to make some really great progress, and then you spent a ton of money on something that you didn't need because you didn't feel you deserved it. So there's that sabotage, subconscious self-sabotage.
Absolutely. And when it comes to money, like you see people all the time that have the potential, they believe they can do it, they expect it just to always work out, but that deservedness kicks in. And I've seen it all the time where they just make a stupid financial decision, and after the fact they recognize it, and I talk to them about it and say, why did you do that? And I start probing, and people will go, I've got no idea. It's so out of character. It's not out of character at all. It's actually that upper limit problem that Kye Harris talks about. You sabotage yourself. You actually made a stupid decision to keep you in your zone of comfort where you sit, because you were just about on the brink. You're about to break through into another level of abundance. You're about to break through into another level of joy and happiness. And you allowed your ego to come in. This comes back to being very aware of what our thoughts are. Your ego come in and just squashed you. Wow. Made a stupid decision.
Yikes. And it is a pattern, right? Because it might have been out of character in that moment because you were on a path of this. But if you really dig deep, it's a pattern that would have been there for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to know what you're worth. And we spoke about worthiness before, and it comes a bit back to that. So deservedness and worthy of it, interchangeable.
Okay.
The last one was action, A. So beta, B-E-D-A. You got to take action. And Gabby Bernstein talks about taking spiritually aligned action. And I don't mean go meditate for 24 hours a day and connect with your inner self that way. What I mean is, what do you love doing? What gets you excited? What gets you eager? What sort of gets, what lifts you up a little bit? Just take the action that aligns with those feelings. It is tricky because we're so busy doing. Get up, go to work. Boss is on to us. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to get maybe back to the family, the children. We've got to pick them up. We've got to go to sport, or my husband wants this, my wife wants this, my partner wants that. So we're so busy doing all the time. We're pulled out of ourselves all the time, and we're not connected with what actually fulfills us, even on the smallest level.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because at the end of the day, why are we all striving and working so hard, right? If we are forgetting the journey and forgetting to enjoy the moment, right? And taking that action, right? I think we can definitely get caught up in that, the pursuit of achieving and striving and doing and having and being, right?
Yes. And it's all in the quest for feeling fulfilled and abundant, but it's the wrong form of abundance. Abundance starts within. And where that actually culminates and where you embody that feeling of abundance, then all the cars, the houses, the businesses, the watches, the clothes will come. It'll come a lot easier than you expect. The money's easy. Like it's easy. Like I can invest and make people money easily, but getting them to shift their mindset and feel that they deserve it, they're worthy of it, to feel abundance, that's tricky. And it takes a lot of changing of beliefs and a lot of awareness of what our thoughts are each and every day.
Yeah, and it's so worth it because your life can completely
Oh,
change, right?
absolutely.
When you change your mindset around that. So the goal is to shift from that scarcity, lack, limitation mindset to limitless abundance and prosperity, and let yourself deserve, right? So remember
Yes.
to believe, to expect, to deserve, and to take action. And unfortunately, we are out of time. It's been such a pleasure, Kye. I think we need to do a
Thank you.
follow-up show for sure to get some
Yeah.
more great
Big topic.
advice. It's a huge topic, and it's so helpful for the listeners to hear that, because I think people do get stuck in that space of hopelessness and believing that they'll never be able to change their financial
Yeah.
situation, right? And the burden and the heaviness and the stress from that. So I thank you so much for
You're very
being here.
welcome. Very welcome. I really wanted people to take away at least one thing, which is believe in yourself. Start small, even if it's just a tiny step, planting that seed of abundance. Back yourself. The momentum will build. I promise you it will change if you stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, we're out of time, everyone. So thanks so much for tuning in to the Mindset Mentor, helping you cultivate a life you love. And remember that your mindset is like a muscle. So you need to strengthen and condition it. In this case, it is your money muscle mindset. So make sure that you do plant the seed of abundance and allow all of that beautiful prosperity to enter into your world. So we'll see you next Tuesday at 1 p.m. here on Sauga 960.